R plus L equals J is easily the most famous theory of A Song of Ice and Fire. Most people believe it to be beyond question, and there is some significant evidence for it. However, what is less commonly pointed out is that there is also a veritable mountain of evidence against this theory being true. So, now, let's examine the evidence for and against R plus L equals J. R plus L equals J is the fan theory that Jon Snow's parents are actually Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. The theory goes on to speculate that Ned raised Jon as his own bastard son to protect him from a vengeful Robert, because Robert hated Rhaegar more than anyone else in the world, and was not too fond of Rhaegar's children either. Now, if true, this theory would explain why Ned, who was an extremely honorable man, would father a bastard, and that this theory alleges that he did not. It also explains why Ned would pretend that Jon was actually his son, to protect him from Robert. There are also some lesser details in the earlier books that do hint at R plus L equals J being true, such as Daenerys having a vision of a blue flower growing in a wall of ice. Blue flowers are associated with Lyanna, so this vision could be interpreted to symbolize Lyanna's son at the wall. Common argument for R plus L equals J is Lyanna's line, "Promise me, Ned." Proponents of the R plus L equals J theory have interpreted this as Lyanna asking Ned to promise to keep baby Jon safe, or something along those lines. However, this line in the books comes right after Ned told Robert that Lyanna wanted to be buried in the Winterfell crypts, so it probably doesn't mean more than that. Now let's look at the evidence against R plus L equals J. For starters, Jon doesn't act or look like a Targaryen. He doesn't have silver gold hair, purple eyes. In fact, Jon is described as looking much like Eddard Stark did when he was young. Jon also doesn't have dragon dreams, which are a staple of Targaryens. He also doesn't have any particular affinity for fire, and he even gets lasting burns in Game of Thrones. In Melisandre's POV chapter, it's confirmed that the wall is a place of magical power, which is probably part of the reason why Melisandre stayed at the wall rather than go with Stannis. So, Jon doesn't have any particular Targaryen attributes, the place where he would most likely activate them. In universe, there is a rumor that Jon Snow's mother is Ashara Dayne. Ned silenced these stories in Winterfell. If he was trying to hide the fact that Jon was the child of Rhaegar and Lyanna, you'd think he wouldn't encourage the mystery of who Jon's mother was, right? It would be so much easier if the goal was to hide Jon's true heritage, to say that Jon was the son of Ashara Dayne. I mean, what is she going to do? Appear from wherever she actually is and refute the claim? Hmm? Also, Ned specifically thinks to himself that he hasn't thought about Rhaegar in a long while, which he might if he was constantly harboring Rhaegar's son. What is more, Catelyn Stark makes it clear Ned never told her who Jon's mother was. Now, it makes sense that Ned wouldn't tell Catelyn when he first arrived with Jon, considering they didn't know each other very well, but in all this time since, with Catelyn's apparent loathing of Jon, Ned never told her Jon wasn't his bastard? Really? It would probably cause Catelyn to warm up to Jon, or at least hate him less, which you'd think Ned would be in favor of. So where does all this evidence for and against R plus L equals J leave us? I do have an idea that makes sense. George R. R. Martin is fairly open about how he tends to change his mind and, well, improvise plot points. A while ago, we found out about Martin's original plan for A Song of Ice and Fire, and it looks very different. Some details have remained the same, a lot has changed, Also, note that the vast majority of the evidence for R plus L equals J is found in A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, first two books. So, what I think is the most likely explanation is that at one point Martin was planning to confirm R plus L equals J, but at some point he changed his mind, which is why the trail for evidence for this theory mostly dies out after the second book. Furthermore, it also explains young Griff's presence in A Dance with Dragons. Young Griff is supposedly Aegon Targaryen, Rhaegar's son with Elia Martell. Now, Aegon has a stronger claim to the throne than Daenerys, and he has recently landed in Westeros with his forces in an attempt to claim the Iron Throne for himself. Simply put, if Jon Snow was, at this point, confirmed to be the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, it would add nothing new to the story, and it would be redundant. Therefore, I suspect that, although the plan might have been originally for Jon to be a secret Targaryen, it no longer makes sense in universe or as a story for him to be one. And Martin has probably done this very trick before, because in Book 3 we are introduced to Edric Dane, who was a squire to Beric Dondarrion. Dane is a young kid, and we haven't seen him since Book 3, but we have been introduced to Gerald Dane, otherwise known as Darkstar, and Darkstar was introduced in Book 4. So this is important because we do know Martin was at one point planning on including a 5-year time jump between Books 3 and 4. Martin ultimately discarded that idea, which is probably why Darkstar was engendered into the plot, to fulfill Edric Dane's original plotline. So, in the same manner, Aegon might have been created in Book 5 to fulfill Jon Snow's original plotline of being a rival of Dany to the throne.